right after that, it was weird. I know. Um, I I turned I was done, and actually I might have been focusing just on thanking Papa for just giving me the opportunity to share, and I was just on there, and all of a sudden I saw on the left part of my side, about where my window's at, just this movement. It was just like it was a black movement, nothing scary, but just kind of, I don't know, maybe on the, kind of the black of my, like there was a being there, and I'm like, okay, who's this? I was actually thanking Papa for just his kingdom or whatever, and next thing you know, I was just like, who are you? And I have no clue. I'm still like trying to figure out why he showed up, but it was Samuel from the Old Testament. I'm like, okay, why are you here? It was just the weirdest thing. I'm just, processing, outside of, the norm of just looking outside at the trees in the autumn and all that. And then why does Samuel show up? So then I'm inward processing. Okay, so Samuel, who was he in the Bible? And he was a mom's desire. Somebody's, Hannah, who was wanted a kid, wanted a child, and she was Papa's promise, or he was Papa's promise to her, and how he basically, once he was born and able to, I don't even know if he was 8 years old, but he was, lived with the priest, the high priest, until he grew up and became, who who most of us know him as the one who anointed Saul and David, and he was a judge and all that. So it was just interesting, and I'm still in the process of processing. You go from that, my time on Imperial Frequencies to that. I'm like, that's an insight into my life, what happens at times.
Yeah, man.
And I know a lot of us have similar stuff like that, but that was my morning.
That's a new normal I can get behind.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Who showed up today? Oh, Samuel, and some others,
Yeah. It's been one of my desires. I want that
Absolutely, man.
blurring line, that veil between the two realms to almost just completely erase, right? I've been asking for that. I don't need it to believe. I want it because I just want both worlds to be totally overlapping all the time. So that I'm talking to my wife, but then I'm turning and talking to an angelic being inside my kitchen doing something else, right? It's like it's just a seamless engagement. I don't need to turn in because I'm always in both, right? I mean, that's the reality. We're in both all the time. So the act of having to turn into it is still not for me enough. I just want to be always conscious. And I've been asking for my eyes, not just to see in the spirit, but be able to see with the physical eyes, the overlay, and be able to engage. I mean, I don't think that's impossible to ask for. I think that's what Yeshua walked in, right? So if he walked in that, then why can't I? Why shouldn't I? So that's been my desire.
Do we still look through a glass darkly?
Only because of our own choice.
Right. Like, is that the case? Like, I've heard that growing up, but is that reality, or is it what was? I used to, but now I have full access. There's nothing between him and I. So yeah, I'm not satisfied to stay behind the dark glass.
Well, and what's the dark glass? I mean, that's the other thing we have to define. I know that church
Ooh,
culture is
yeah.
defined as a certain thing,
Hmm.
but I think darkly has to do mostly with hiddenness or mystery, right? So since we have the one that reveals all mystery, Ruach Hakodesh has been assigned, that's his task, that's the responsibility to bring the sons into all truth. And there's no reason why we should have to peer through the dark, right? That it all should be revealed. But I think there's a level of mystery that remains as though we see something, right? Because there's a difference between not seeing the spiritual realm. Let me restart that. I think there's a difference between what we call the dark glass dimly, in that it's hidden revelation. That doesn't mean we can't see the hidden revelation. We can't see the mystery, right? We can see the mystery, but not understand what we're seeing. I guess what I'm getting at. So if I see something, I may not understand what it is, but I'm still seeing in the spirit. So that's what I want to unlock, is I want to see the crazy things that are floating around, and
Yes.
and
Yeah.
not just
I
the
wanna see
dark
my
stuff.
angels.
I want to see.
I've been talking to these angels for like
Yeah.
3 years now.
Yeah,
I want to see you guys, Dave, Alan, Enigma, and whoever else is here. Cannonball, my wife's angel. Yeah, I'd like you to show up for lunch. I'll make a sandwich.
Yeah.
You know, I know that Jeff, we'd go to his house and they'd have water glasses set up for the angels.
Yeah.
You know, we've had, I mean, in my vehicle, every once in a while, we put your backpack or something in the passenger side, and I'm like, oh, sorry, there's a being there. You
Yes.
kind of just, we don't think, because we don't necessarily see, but they're there in my realm, or I'm there in their realms, and it just becomes a reality that I think that you see, and I just put this in, for me, living in I've lived in towns where we had a lot of homeless people, and they walk around and they're just kind of having all these conversations, and you think that they're having conversations with themselves, but I really doubt it. But that's the norm for them. They're seeing, that's their reality, is they are having conversations with these beings or whatever they're, and the truth is we are supposed to be having those all the time. And
Right.
I think the church is as a whole is just kind of pushed that aside, and but when I see them or bump into or what happened today, it's just like, those are like I could have chose to just like turn back and went back into my whatever I was doing, but I'm like, no, that he showed up in my living room, my space. He chose to show up in my space, and I want to honor Samuel for coming into my living room